With the blessing of Guruji, she has taught us so much. And after 4 to 5 years of being in the Gita and scribbling on the book, I said, it's not making. I have to be able to read, and if my children ever look at my book, they'll never know what to do. And so in simple English, I have written each verse in 2 lines. And I put 2 verses together to make a stanza. So that tomorrow, they don't have to look at my scribbles, they can just read the chapters I have put together. In one sitting, you can read this, and I'm sure you will all understand without any problem. Second chapter discourse, Sankhya Yoga, the yoga of knowledge. Sanjay, the war reporter, tells the blind king, Dhritarashtra, all about the situation at the battlefield. Sanjay tells him this just before the war between the Kauravas and the Pandavas begins. At the 11th hour, Arjun, who was groomed for this war for years, now wavers. Arjun feels aversion having to kill his cousins, uncles, teachers, and other warriors. Arjun plunges into despondency, is so dejected that his eyes get teary and blurred. Lord Krishna was appalled to see this most able warrior, son of Kunti, so perturbed. Lord Krishna, rather disappointed, said to Arjun, detection comes to you at this critical juncture when all is set for the battlefield? Why, O Arjun, why are you so disheartened, relenting, and inclined to yield? Arjun, arise and get going. Such behavior does not befit warriors and noble men. Such disheartenment only brings disgrace, dishonor, and shuts doors to heaven. Arjun then expressed his feelings to Lord Krishna. It sickens me to shoot arrows on great souls like Bhishma and Drona here. They are my relatives, my preceptors, who deserve my respect and revere. I'd rather be a beggar and accept alms than slay my men for land and wealth. Killing them will stain my food and spoils with blood, thus ruining my health. Arjun admits to Lord Krishna, to conquer or they conquer us in this battle, indecisiveness dulls my senses. My heart is overpowered with taint of pity, O Lord, strengthen my weaknesses. What is my dharma, my right path, or prescribed duty? What exactly should I do? I am your disciple and you are my guide. Instruct me, I humbly take refuge in you. Sanjay further reported to King Dhritarashtra. Before Lord Krishna could open his mouth and have his advice lent, Arjun rushed to make a statement, I will not fight, and became silent. And as Arjun sat with his head bowed down despairingly for a while, Lord Krishna turned towards him and shared his wisdom with a smile. Arjun dear, changes in the body do not mean changes in the soul. Atma, you know, is eternal, deathless, immutable, the sum of whole. In this universe, there's only one soul, one Atma, which is so pure. Arjun, try to grasp this reality. Don't grieve. Have courage to endure. Lord Krishna then explained the true knowledge of the self and the physical body, the Sankhya theory. Stop grieving and lamenting for those who are unworthy of grieving. Understand the immortality of the soul. Be wise and stop mourning. In the cycle of life, Atma inhabits a body in childhood, youth, and sage. After death, Atma takes on a new body and sheds the old, my dear sage. Lord Krishna emphatically told Arjuna, do not get magnetized by worldly sense objects which are unlimited in number. Pairs of opposites are heat and cold, pain and pleasure, joy and sorrow. These dualities are transitory, sensory perceptions which come and go. Mind well trained and wise is unperturbed and can handle dualities equally. That calm mind can endure dualities and is fit for salvation and immortality. Then Lord Krishna talks about a man of real vision who sees the fine line between the existent and the non-existent, The invisible self is eternal and there is no going and coming to be. The visible physical body is transitory, changeable, and ceases to be. The spirit omnipresent, pervading the universe at all times, is indestructible. The physical bodies subject to birth, growth, decay are mortal and they crumble. Lord Krishna then assured Arjuna, the self, the spirit, the soul is neither destroyed nor slain when the body is slain. When the body is killed, the soul is not, so any further discussion is effort in vain. O Arjuna, once you know that the Atma is eternal, immutable, and it is never killed, you will accept this fight for righteousness as call of duty, what God for you willed. Lord Krishna then explained death and the transmigration of the soul. Death is the separation of the subtle body, the soul, from the gross physical body. Death does not interrupt the journey of the soul as it does the life of the human body. The soul starts to reside in the new body just like the new garment replaces the old outfit. Weapons can't cut the soul, fire can't burn it, water can't drown it, and wind can't dry it. Atma being the subtlest element, nothing can cut it or touch it or affect it in any way. Atma is eternal, omnipresent, changeless, immovable, primeval, and will not decay. Atma cannot be seen by the eye, but it is all-pervading and universal, never destroyed. Atma is never evident, like a rope on which the illusion of the snake is superimposed. Seeing Arjuna still sad and unwilling to fight, Lord Krishna tries to convince Arjuna not to grieve. Arjuna, Atma is not subject to any change, knowing its true nature, so why grieve? It is certain there is death for the born and birth for the dead, so why grieve? All physical bodies are invisible to our eyes before and after death, so why you grieve? Physical bodies appear between birth and death in an illusory form, so give up, grieve. Some consider Atma to be a wonder, some speculate on it, others call it sensational. Still, few really understand that Atma dwells in every body, in all beings, and is eternal. Knowing that the Atma is eternally indestructible, why mourn over body frail and fallen? Arjuna dear, understand this, fear not, and do your duty for which you have been chosen. Lord Krishna then elaborated on the duty of a warrior according to the Kshatriya Dharma and the consequences of him not fulfilling his Swadharma. O Partha, war against external enemies is the duty suggested for the Kshatriya men. The Kshatriya who fights the righteous war acquires grace of God and goes to heaven. If you step back from your duty, you will be warrior defamed and to family bring shame. If you resist a righteous war, you will get dishonor, disgrace, and stain on your fair name. Great warriors will regard you as fearful and fickle, and they will lose respect for you. Enemies will they will belittle your ability, defame you, and an immense pain you will accrue. Arjuna, arise, be determined to fight. To heaven you will go if ever killed in line of duty, or you will enjoy the kingdom on earth if victorious. Either way, reward is its beauty. Lord Krishna then explains the science of Karma Yoga, the selfless action. O son of Kunti, consider this fight for right to be your selfless action called seva. When you perform a selfless act of humanity, your karma bondage will disappear. For Karma Yogis, no selfless action or sacrifice for the good of others goes waste. Karma Yogis work selflessly with love for God and with no fruits of action to taste. On the other hand, the misguided and ignorant one who delight in the Vedic chants, perform special fasts, rites, and prayers only for the attainment of worldly enjoyments. Overpowered and dominated by material and worldly desires, their efforts go in vain. These people achieve no salvation in this world. They are born again and again. Lord Krishna further elaborated the theory and practice of Karma Yoga. And in the interest of time, it's a very repetitive, so I'll skip it. Arjuna is now starting to go along with Lord's teaching. He then questions Lord Krishna. What is the mark of a wise man with steady thoughts on God? How does the man submerged in the superconscious state talk, sit, and walk? Finally, he's coming around. Lord Krishna then enumerated the salient features of an enlightened sage. An enlightened sage is the one who is unperturbed in adversity, gets detached and conquers fear, hatred, and anger completely. Wise is he who does his duty and disengages from other things. He is a peaceful soul who to joy or sorrow or to results never clings. An enlightened self-realized sage has an intellect sharp and steady. His senses are well tamed and not stirred by temptation so worldly, like a tortoise who in the time of danger retreats his limbs and claws. A self-realized man of firm convictions, all his senses he withdraws. Lord Krishna then spelled out the dangers of unrestrained senses, and that's what we need to hear a lot. Even though a person strives earnestly to control his mind and many senses, O Arjun, one has to always keep vigilance on worldly Maya's influences. Even the sage can be vulnerable to the power of the senses and get unsteady. But if the mind is fully absorbed in me for self-realization, the sage is ready. Repeatedly, Lord Krishna talks of attainment of peace and happiness through sense control and acquiring knowledge. A disciplined person enjoys sense objects with command on his senses intense. Therefore, gets not attached, has no mental agitation, and attains peace immense. Tranquility removes all delusion and confusion, intellect then gaining steadiness, attaining unity with the Atma, the Supreme Being, he finally experiences happiness. In contrast, the undisciplined mind has no focus, no peace, only unhappiness. The mind gripped by roving senses with no hold on reins misleads the intellect. Just like a storm that sways the boat away from the course it had originally set. O Arjun, so the one who is knowledgeable and experienced acquires wisdom. Wisdom then helps the man control his mind and senses in this worldly kingdom. When others sleep, a yogi, the person of self-restraint, is always alert and awake. When others dream in the illusory world, a yogi does not let temptations overtake. When all desires vanish, a yogi attains tranquility without any mental commotion, like gently merging of the river waters into a full ocean, never creating agitation. This then is the superconscious state of mind, O Arjun. He is the one who attains peace, for whom all worldly desires and longings cease. One who has no sense of me or mine or egotism, he proceeds towards peace. He who is established in this divine state, with no ego even at the hour of death, surely gains supreme bliss, and that is the very goal of life until one's last breath. Thank you.